Welcome to the Real Football Talk. Today we'll be discussing about Chelsea's great 2-0 win against Everton, where Tuchel made another record, going 5 of his home games with a clean sheet, and also kind of extending his run to keeping clean sheet 9 out of his 11 games. Shavia, what was your take on the game and Chelsea's dominance of the whole game?
I think it's been standard Chelsea really in the last few weeks. Tuchel's brand of football is, very at the moment I'll say defensive first. They look defensively on point every time, they're on that pitch. And today was just a comfortable game. It was easy. I don't think Everton had anything in the locker to trouble them. And it was just, I thought it was plain and simple. They did really well. I think Jorginho was key. He makes these little 1-2 passes where he goes from defense into midfield first and then out wide. And I think that messes up a lot of teams, the way, certain teams on a press. So like even today, Everton, I thought kind of lined up 4-4-2 with Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison up top, and they struggled. Even though they contained, I thought Chelsea were contained that first half. It was difficult, but, they were happy to hold on to that ball. And it's just, they're just at a good place at the moment.
Considering the amount of changes Chelsea made, Hibsel, for them to kind of continue to play and dominate the game, I mean, what's it down to, really? Because obviously, clearly, seems like these players know what they're expected in each different roles.
Yeah, I think a lot is down to Tuchel and his system, his philosophy when it comes to his approach in terms of how he sees football, how he sees the game. And even in previous clubs, he's a coach where he doesn't necessarily rely on a specific system. It's principles first. So he has a principles first approach. And when you take a principles first approach, you can develop your players in a way where, regardless of the player that comes in, they know their role inside out. Regardless of the system changes that you make from week to week, but also during a particular game, midway through, players know what they need to do. Because Tuchel takes the approach, and you'll see in some of the innovative training methods that he's already implemented when he's come in. He places a lot of emphasis on making sure that his players are able to make good decisions on the pitch themselves. They can solve problems themselves. They know the foundations of attack. They know the foundations of defense. So, it's credit to him and his style of play and his approach to the game, where regardless of who he brings into his starting lineup or his setup, they all seem to be performing really well. And I think on what Shavia said, I more or less agree 100% with everything he said, which is it's been what we saw today has been Chelsea for the last few weeks. Some negative aspects, but on the whole positive in that defensively very solid, great structure. I was probably more impressed with their defense than their attack in that. I thought Azpilicueta had a great game. I thought Zuma played well. I thought Alonso, Christensen, the aggressiveness, the intensity of Azpilicueta and Zuma at the back, the build-up play from the back, the possession that they kept. The one downfall and the negative aspect, which again we've seen in Chelsea over the last few weeks, has been the attacking play in the final third. And I felt as if that first goal, they got quite lucky in that there was a massive error from Everton in their defence and their positional play. But after they went 1-0 up, I think it was difficult for Chelsea to lose that game, given how they dominate games through keeping possession.
Adil, on kind of what both of these guys said, do you think in terms of Everton and them missing a key person in Doucoure kind of affected them? And do you think, the way I saw it, I thought they played a 3 at the back with the 2 wing backs, with the 2 up top. Do you think they maybe should have just kept to their diamond? Because when they changed the formation to a diamond, they seemed like a better team.
I think they played 4 at the back, and they did play the diamond with the two wide strikers.
Yeah.
Really, I think Doucoure was a loss because instead of like Iwobi played more like a right winger than he did as a. So they yeah, you could say it wasn't a clear cut diamond. It was two and then one on the right wing, and then Sigurdsson playing more like a false nine. But the problem is obviously the first goal is Iwobi's mistake and Holgate's mistake. So clearly Doucoure's absence did make a difference. And you didn't actually see much penetration or attacks down that side from Iwobi anyway. So Doucoure was a big loss. His energy is a big loss. He plays two roles. He plays midfield, and then he also occupies the right-hand side of the pitch. And if we look at today, they really overloaded on that side. Kovacic kept going across that side. Zuma was pushing up. Alonso and Hudson-Odoi. So they were, Chelsea were clever in putting 4 players on that side and really exposing Iwobi because obviously, Everton were asking Holgate to mark Hudson-Odoi tight, and it cost them. So I do think the loss of Doucoure was big, and it contributed to the first goal.
Yeah, I also thought Iwobi in general had a really poor game. Probably, in terms off the ball and on the ball. Like if you look at that goal, his position for that goal, I have no idea what he's doing. I mean, he's not closing the man on the ball or cutting down the space, and at the same time, he's let his man go. So you can even see in the build-up to the goal, he's literally looking around, thinking, "Where on earth should I be?" And on the ball, I didn't think he was great. He was great either. I think, fortunately, it made sense why he was substitute at 55 minutes. But I felt Iwobi almost epitomised a lot of what was wrong with Everton on the ball, in that every time they got the ball in the early stages of the game, everything felt quite rushed. When they got the ball in Chelsea's half, everything seemed rushed. They were overhitting balls. They didn't quite know what they're doing. It improved over the course of the game, but especially during those early stages, I think a lot of Everton's play was rushed. You could even hear I think I had a couple of instances on the touchline during the game with BT Sports match where the audience noise is taken out, where Ancelotti was screaming, "Calm, calm," as in he was literally telling his players, "Take your time, put some passes together." And I think, like I said, I think Iwobi unfortunately epitomised that in that, every time he got the ball today, everything felt rushed. They didn't quite know what he was doing, and I think that showed in the first goal that they conceded as well.
I mean, do you think that's down to the press of Chelsea, really? Because
I don't think Chelsea, like Kivzo was saying, I honestly don't think Chelsea went out of first gear today. They found it that easy. The game opened up towards the last half an hour only because Chelsea chose to attack and put more numbers forward. They were leaving gaps, and Everton got a bit of joy. If they stayed compact and secure, I don't think Everton would have had any sniffs at all. The Doucoure, like Aduba said, was a big miss. I thought Allen did well. But again, the 2-10s, Hudson-Odoi and Kai Havertz in the second half, man coming on, caused Allen issues. I thought Allen probably was one of the better players on that pitch for them, but you can't mark 2-10s out of the game. And Havertz was, his movement was really good today. I thought that caused Allen a lot of issues.
Since you mentioned Havertz,
the other issue is on what Shavir was saying. We were talking about the diamond shape, especially when he took Iwobi off, and I think he went to more of a diamond for like the final third of the game. I actually don't think that helped Everton. I actually think that was it favoured Chelsea, because if you think about the shape of a diamond and Chelsea's width, the width that Tuchel employs with his wing backs in his formation, if you think about that diamond then is becoming even more stretched out to go and mark your wide players. Now, it might work if they move side to side as a unit, but I didn't really see that happening during the game. So what then happens is the left and right side of the diamond, or even the front of the diamond, is being shifted or stretched to either side of the pitch. And if you look at the second goal where Havertz went through and Jorginho scored the penalty, look at the amount of space on the pitch where that ball has travelled to get to Havertz in the first place, all the way down through the middle. And part of that is credit to Tuchel's system and Chelsea, in that, going back to the point around overloading, they know how to create space in different areas of the pitch through small positional, possession-based football, concentrated football in one area, and being able to move that around from one to another area and creating opportunities for space.
Also very good at adapting as well. What you said, Ivzo, towards the beginning, if you saw his time at Paris Saint-Germain as well, it's very much play what you see. He implements the system, but it's very, there's a lot of freedom to the players. Play what you see, and he does like to adapt in games. So, it's very difficult. Tactically, he's a very, very acute manager. He's willing to adapt to almost any situation on that pitch.
Agreed.
And and we're seeing glimpses of it. Like, I think they lack a number 9. They don't have a clinical striker, and I don't really think he's gone into attacking thirds maybe as deeply as he wants to. He's probably just got his defensive foundations and off the ball, and the principles, like you said, what follows him everywhere he goes. But I can only imagine once they start, moving on to attacking, as a team, and eventually in the summer, if they bring in a number 9, if Haaland's available and they bring him in, then I think Chelsea's in business, and it's going to be tough for teams to compete with them. I mean, look at the depth today. They brought on Kante, Mason Mount, and who was the third player that come on?
Pulisic.
Yeah. These are 3 players that would make almost top 6 teams easy. Pulisic will get into most teams. Kante walks into most teams, and then you had Mason Mount come on, who's a bright player, who's a good player. So they've got good depth as well in that team. It's exciting times for Chelsea fans.
I wanted to talk about a player kind of Tuchel brought in into today's game, really, who has been struggling to kind of settle in, Havertz. But today he seems like he's really kind of fitted into his system. Adi, what did you make of his performance and kind of what he did during the game? Because, I mean, he seemed to be everything that Chelsea done good, really.
Yeah, I mean, just to make a correction, sorry. Everton did switch to a 3 wing-back system, but they didn't start that. Sorry, I meant as in at the start of the game, they started with Holgate right back, and then they did switch to a wing-back system. So, host does his research. Yeah, sorry. But I was going to say, I thought out of all of them, I think looking at Havertz today, he looks like the best player in terms of playing the 9 role. He played more as in the 9, and Werner and Hudson-Odoi were playing the 10s. But I felt he brings something different to what, because Giroud drops too deep to link the play, and Tammy Abraham posts up and stays high up the pitch. So a lot of the time he's not part of the build-up play. And then as soon as the ball goes out wide, he's just looking to get in on the end. So he doesn't offer enough in the build-up. And what Havertz did today was he was getting a lot of lateral movement, which they've lacked. I mean, before the goal, they were struggling to go through the middle. But you can see the confidence in Havertz grow, and what he was doing is he's willing to take the pace, the ball on the half turn, but he's also willing to take it in space. So he's not really resting with the player. He's forcing the defender to chase him because he's receiving it in the space. So what happens is then he's already half turn and he's ready to move that ball slightly more forward as a result. The other thing is Giroud's comfortable as well taking on the chest, but a lot of the times he's taking on the chest and he's going forward. He's straight away on that chest turn, bang, forward. So what happened was he started to get the tempo and the attack going forward a lot quicker, especially in the second half, and exposed the wing-back system because he kept getting the ball in behind a couple of times to Hudson-Odoi, a couple of times to Werner, and that's why I think Ancelotti changed the system to go into a wing-back system to try and contain Havertz and Hudson-Odoi. So yeah, I, from all the players they have playing the 9 position, he to me he looks the best, most comfortable.
I mean, he's really been struggling, but Shavia, what did you take on Havertz and how he done really, and what did you make of the disallowed goal? Because obviously that was a key incident and could have probably given him even more of a boost.
I think Tuchel did the right thing. You know, when he came in, both Havertz and Timo Werner was struggling for confidence. And as you can imagine, the Premier League is tough. It's so many fixtures, and especially for Kai Havertz, someone of where he was playing before he came to Chelsea. I think he just needed that time, and I think for Tuchel again, I think his great management, took him out the firing line. Just let him build up his confidence, and I'm sure he's worked with him behind the scenes. And now you're seeing the glimpses of the magic Havertz can provide. We all knew what he's about. I just think he lacked in confidence, and today you can tell he's a player that's getting back into his mode. So it's good.
A goal?
Sorry, say that again.
Do you think it should have been a goal? The handball that allowed?
Yeah. No, from you saw it from two angles. From the first angle, I thought, yeah, it's a handball. From the second angle, it's like, oh, okay, did it hit his hand? But I don't know. They said something. I can't even I forgot. I can't even quote it. But something along the line, if VAR don't think it's a clear, obvious mistake, then they're not overruling it. So with that, I just think they did the right thing and they just went with the game. Referee's decision, whatever he stuck with first, he went with. But it could have gone either way. Could have gone really either way. Like I said, from both, one angle it looked like he hit his hand, the other angle he doesn't.
It's one of those where that kind of decision is a lot harder to make in this current VAR era of decision making. That if it was a decision before VAR came into play, ref makes a decision on what he sees and you kind of go ahead with it. But I think now that you've got VAR, it's almost like it takes a decision out of what you're actually seeing because it's got a complete set of rules behind the incident itself. The point on Havertz, just to add, Tuchel's always been great with young players anyway. So I think, probably one of the best things to happen to players like Havertz, Werner, etc., is someone like Tuchel coming in to be able to give them that coaching behind the scene, that guidance, and that confidence. The other point probably also worth mentioning, just to emphasize Chelsea's ability to overload on one side of the pitch and create opportunities on the other, is that disallowed goal. If you look at probably the 60 seconds building up to the goal when the cross was fired in and Havertz took it down and finished it, on the right-hand side of the pitch, they probably kept the ball with small possession-based passing for about 60 seconds. I mean, Reece James and Azpilicueta must have been passing it between them for about a good 30 seconds. You had Kovacic come in. They created the overload. As soon as they saw, okay, the space opening up in the middle, that's when Kovacic got onto the ball, drove into the middle, took it to the other side, back into the box with Havertz coming in. But I think it just shows that point where there's so many things going right for Chelsea. There's so many cogs of the wheel turning. There's so many elements of the system being fine-tuned. And I think credit to Havertz as well. I do think he actually had a really good game, very involved, similar to the points Adebayo and Chavir were making in that his confidence is a lot higher. He's getting on the end of things. He brings something different to Chelsea's attack that they probably otherwise wouldn't have had.
Covered a lot about Chelsea, really. I wanted to look into what went wrong for Everton. Adi, what really went wrong for them, and why did they struggle so much to create any chances or anything?
I think Everton, what happened was at the beginning they were sitting off, and in a way that was helping them because they weren't giving away the opportunities down the center of the pitch, and Chelsea were struggling to break him down. But the problem was one-on-one on that right hand side. Holgate was getting exposed because of the overloads on that side. So what happened? Kovacic kept going to that side. Then you had Alonso go there, and then you had Hudson-Odoi going over there. So then, and it literally became 3 against 1. So again, Iwobi just was not effective in helping Holgate out. So then, to counter that, he changed the system. But while changing the system, that allowed Everton to start pressing higher up the pitch. And I think that helped. But and the goal came actually when Everton were having their best moment of the first half, which was they had a couple of attacks, promising opportunity, and they were starting to nick the ball higher up the pitch because of the system change. They were able to then press higher and be a bit more aggressive because for them, they've got two people on that right side protecting. But then obviously the goal cost them really badly. So, and after that, they just lost all momentum in the game because Chelsea made their adjustments at halftime and then started to overrun the game. So the problem Everton have is with Ancelotti, they try to win the match in moments. Then they never try to dominate a game. They try to win the match through one moment, and then because they're very difficult, a physical team, they're hard to break down. They then contain and compete and get the result. So they create some of those moments, but they couldn't execute. And one time, Richarlison was 1-1 with Christensen. Christensen done excellent defending. There's other potential quick breaks they could have done, but because their system is all about moments, they don't have the players and the rhythm in the right places to do fast breaks even. It's all about actually nicking the ball high up the pitch and getting one goal.
I mean, do you think an issue is the lack of depth they have within their team? Because obviously you said Iobi came in for Doucoure, clearly is not doing well. So do you think that's the problem, and that's why they will probably won't finish in the European League or Champions League positions?
I think they're in the same boat. I think they still have that chance. It depends. Everton's system is all about playing what he's got. Obviously, he's asking a lot of players to play double roles just to keep an attacking impetus on the pitch. They had solutions. I mean, it's not like they don't. They had plenty of wingers on the pitch. On the bench, they had Bernard. Richarlison is naturally a winger. Sigurdsson has played on the right side before. So they had solutions on even on the pitch and on the bench. I don't think it suddenly becomes such a situation where it's Doucoure and nothing else. I mean, but the thing was, for that system to work, it is Doucoure, Allen, them two are the ones that make the difference. Because Allen is so good at defensive mid, and both of them have the energy to do two-man's job. So even when Gomez is struggling, these two can fill in. Sigurdsson starts struggling, these two can fill in. So, not having Doucoure's energy was more the problem. So the system probably doesn't fit, doesn't work when Doucoure is not there. I mean, that system he's the only player that can make it work because he covers both positions well. So I think Everton's struggles is because that's how their template is. They rely on the moment. They haven't got a system where they're going to dominate a game. They're never going to become too open. They're just going to compete and get their goal and be very difficult and obdurate. And it doesn't. And obviously, it's very difficult when you lose a goal then to suddenly change your whole style.
Thank you all for coming to today's shows, and I'll see you soon.